How many of you can remember an embarrassing moment from back in your high school days? Raise your hand. Ah, many more. Sometimes those little episodes can turn into life-changing events, turning points or defining moments in one's life. And little did I know it at the time, but I had just such an experience. You see, I grew up in Huntington, Long Island in New York. Thank you very much. That is the proper amount of applause for Huntington. I see you've been there. Yes. And I was one of those guys growing up in high school who made the basketball team every single year. Never played. You know the kind I'm talking about? 12th man on a 12-man roster. It's not like we had such a good team either. I bet we didn't win more than 4 games in the 4 years I was in high school. But for some reason, the coach felt like we had to be down by 50 points before he'd even consider putting me in the game. Now, in high school basketball, we lost by 20, 30, 40 points a lot. But 50 points, even in a high school game, that's a lot of points to lose by. The games just weren't that long. I mean, I'm sure if the games were longer, we would have lost by 50 a lot more often, and I would have seen a lot more playing time. So one day we get invited to a tournament not based on our win-loss record, but based on geography. All the schools from the area were coming in, and we get on the bus. It's about a half hour away. We get off the bus. We go into this gym. This gym is the largest gym I have ever seen. This place is huge. You could not see from one end to the other. There had to be 4 or 5 courts lined up side by side. 2 rows of chairs, about 15 deep, facing back to back, just for the players and coaches to sit on, leaving these large gaping holes in between every other court. So the game starts. We're about 10 minutes into it. And we're down by 23 points. And I'm sitting over on the sidelines going, yes! Because I know I'm going to see a lot of playing time tonight. And sure enough, with about 2 minutes to go in the first half, coach calls a timeout, calls me over. Now, you got to remember for a minute. Here I am, the shortest guy out there, with my skinny little chicken legs hanging out of these big baggy shorts that are up to about here on me. It was not a pretty picture. Now, the other guys had their worst players in too, so we're all trying pretty hard to look respectable at this point. So when you're my size, you play point guard, which means you bring the ball down the court. And I was pretty good at that. I could handle the ball. But also, when you're my size, you better be quick. And I was. I had what's called a quick first step. Nobody could catch me. Thank you very much. So the other team decides they're going to press. They're going to send 2 guys at me. One guy at me this way, one guy at me this way, try to trap me in the corner. And because I'm the smallest guy out there, I'm not going to be able to see over them past the ball. I wasn't about to let that happen. So I'm bringing the ball up, about 30 seconds. I see the double team, the press coming. One guy this way, one guy this way. Which way do you think I go? This way. And just like the Energizer Bunny, I keep going, and I keep going, and I keep going. Now remember those large gaping holes in between every other court where the 2 rows of chairs are facing back to back, 15 deep for the players and the coaches? Well, the whistle finally blows, play stops, and everybody is sitting there with their mouths open, looking at me, and there I am, with the ball, with my skinny little chicken legs hanging out of the big baggy shorts up to here, halfway over, standing out of bounds on the next court. The 2 guys who were covering me had followed us out of bounds and are still covering me halfway over on the next court. My teammate who was waiting for me to pass the ball to him had followed us out of bounds, saying, pass the ball. You just couldn't gain any perspective on it. Except for the guys up in the stands, the bleachers that surrounded all 5 courts, they had an vantage point. They could see everything that was going on, and they're going crazy. They're going absolutely nuts. They're shouting things like, close the windows, lock the doors, this guy's going all the way to Chicago with the ball. They're high-fiving each other. They're doubled over in laughter, just having, generally speaking, a good old time at my expense. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my most embarrassing moment ever. But it seems that as much as I would like to forget that little episode, it seems over the years that it has come to serve as kind of a metaphor for the rest of my life. You see, it seems that ever since that time, I have been expanding boundaries and bringing people with me. Aha. See, this is a pretty smart crowd. That's what we want to do here today. I want to go beyond extending your boundaries, beyond extending your court vision, and literally get you over there on the other court with me where it's a lot less crowded and a lot more fun.